So I just want to go over quickly what I do to attach the main halyard. I just go through one end, go through the second time, and then just tie a square knot. And I make sure, since this is not totally symmetrical, that the halyard is going to exit the sail on one side or the other, I make sure that that exit side lines up with whatever side I'm hoisting, just so that the sail really gets up all the way. And then secondly, I want to talk about this batten tension. Just want to make sure that, you know, the batten's in there secure. And then just a general rule of thumb, you know, the windier it is, the more tension you want it. If you see wrinkles up in the top of the sail, some of those can often be removed with more batten tension, just pushing the batten in and readjusting the Velcro on the gap, on both the gaff and the second batten on the top. So now we got the sail up, and I'm going to do the same thing again. Start from sort of topics ranging from the stern going forward. So the biggest thing we did this off season was approve this new stern sheeting system. Many of you probably remember the internal hoop that was connected to the main sheet and went up sort of to the mid boom. This is what we've allowed now, and it's a new system, and it seems to work quite well. And it definitely creates a little bit more space in the cockpit after you remove the hoop. This is something that I just made up. I added these sort of fair leads, similar to a laser fair lead in the stern. And just, if you want to do this to your boat, you could just, you know, copy the dimensions. I did roughly 15.5 inches from sort of the center of the fair lead to the stern on either side. And then I kind of created this bridle with two blocks here. Same setup as a laser, if you're familiar with that. And then this distance, sort of the highest point to the deck is 18 inches, and we found that that setting to be pretty good when we did the sail testing with Judd a few months ago. And it took us a while to get to that point because we tested a lot with, you know, having it low and super high, and, you know, we just kind of found this medium range to be the best. So that's 18 inches. And then this whole main sheet configuration needs to change, and these little fair leads are on sliders, and they kind of move around, and they can, you know, go forward and back. You might have to play around with it, but this is basically the configuration you're going to want to end up with. Secondly, we added this little sleeve here so that the laser has the same thing, and just so that you don't get hooked on the main sheet when you're tacking or jibing, and this sleeve kind of keeps the main sheet up and high. Let's see, what else? We removed the hoop, but on some boats you're not able to take off the screws, so I ended up just hacksawing the whole sort of hoop part that goes above the bench. And so I still have sort of the structural part that goes from the floor up to the bench, and I kept that mostly because I couldn't unscrew the through bolts that were on the base of the hoop, so the hoop had to stay. But I got rid of the annoying part that was, you know, prohibiting people from going into the middle of the boat and whatever. So now there's a lot more space. The only downside to the whole stern sheeting thing I see is there's a little bit more main sheet in the boat, so you're going to need a longer main sheet than the one originally provided with the boat, and the jibing's a little trickier. You're going to have to trim in more main sheet before each jibe. But, you know, I think the benefits outweigh the disadvantages. So, I want to talk about the outhaul really quickly. Probably one of the more important controls, controlling, you know, the whole shape of the bottom of the sail. Probably the first half of the sail is controlled by the outhaul. And my rule of thumb is that I always just go sort of put my wrist in the middle of the boom, and I want my fingertips to touch the edge of the sail. And so that's a really good starting point, right? Because you don't want it, you know, if it's overly loose, the sail's just going to be really full, not really fast. And the opposite's true, you know, if the outhaul's really tight, you know, you're not producing the same power that you would if you had a little bit more depth. So rule of thumb for me is just, you know, mid boom with your wrist, and just reach out and touch the sail with your fingertips. That's going to be your base setting. Obviously, if it gets a little bit windier, you can always adjust that. And then downwind, definitely you want to ease off another couple inches of line, hit the sail nice and full for the downwind, and then make sure that before you get to the leeward mark, you trim it on back to your sort of your base setting, which is the hand width. And I find that really easy to, you know, sort of replicate. Maybe put a mark on the out hole where that would go. Okay. Moving on to sort of the vang, which would be the other control at your disposal. The vang, we found, is something that's not, it's really important, but it's not something that, you know, you really needed to have trimmed on really tightly if it got a little bit windier. You know, just, you know, you kind of want to trim into the corner on the main sheet and just kind of take out the slack, maybe a little bit more, but you don't want to start vang sheeting and all that. It's not that effective, and you know, you kind of want to just play more with the main sheet and make sure the out hull is correct, make sure there's some cutting arm on if you're overpowered, things like that. But you also don't want to ever be tacking and maneuvering with the vang really loose, because that means that after every maneuver you're really losing a lot of power.